Bill Maher's show from Friday night, and he had Robert De Niro on. He said this about Trump.
He's such a mean, nasty, hateful person. I never play him as an actor because I can't see any good in him. Nothing at all. Nothing redeemable in him. If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine.
I mean, okay, let's start with Destiny. I got to say, when I saw that, I just thought, really? Isn't this liberals falling into the old trap of over-demonizing Trump to the extent that actually it just helps him?
I think that there is an issue when it comes to covering Trump because it feels like there is an over-demonization of Trump. But also, Trump is kind of a demon. Like, I think that it's funny because people will look at the left and they'll say that, people are harping too much on Trump's rhetoric or how mean he is towards people on Twitter. But then when you talk to conservatives, it seems like Trump's Twitter behavior is their number one selling point for why they like him so much. Like, yeah, I don't know what he does for policy. I don't know what he does for legislation. But, he's got a lot of really good zingers. Like, this is a guy who's known for giving mean nicknames to his debate stage opponents. I don't think it's that crazy to say that Trump has some of the most divisive rhetoric and is one of the meanest people that we've seen as like a world leader on the world stage, at least insofar as like rhetoric and how he addresses people goes.
Yeah, but I always say, you see, about this, that there's a lot of hypocrisy about this based around Trump's rhetoric compared to his actions. For example, with Barack Obama, who obviously didn't tweet incendiary things about people and was the epitome of kind of civilized presidential public office behavior. But he still deported over 3 million people. He still ran a terrible drone program. He still dropped more bombs in 1 year than any president in modern history. He kept Guantanamo Bay open despite campaigning to shut it, etc. He's the angel, Trump's the devil, and I don't think either's particularly accurate.
I don't think I would say that Obama is an angel, but I mean, there's a separate discussion between besides the character of a person and the actual policy positions or things they did in office. I think Trump would lose on both counts, but I mean, separate from policy or, effectuality or ineffectuality as a leader, I think that it's pretty undeniable that Trump is kind of a mean-spirited guy. And then when you look at how he runs his campaign, when you look at how he runs the country, he's a very self-driven person. Like, every single thing that he does is just ultimately to serve his needs or his ends at the end of the day, whether that means throwing political opponents under the bus, whether that means throwing political allies under the bus, whether that means not helping, Georgia's Senate elections because he's so angry that Raffensperger, wouldn't turn over enough votes for him, and now Georgia has 2 blue senators. Like, I don't know. Trump is a really mean dude. And again, yeah, you can switch over and you can look at the foreign policy position too. But I mean, you can talk about Obama's follies, but Trump also abandoned our Kurdish allies in Syria to Turkey. Trump also, inflamed tensions in the Middle East when he recognized, the Jerusalem, moving the embassy over to Jerusalem and the United States' recognition of Israel annexing East Jerusalem and everything. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think Trump wins on any count where he would come off as a nice guy.
Okay. I mean, Benny Johnston, does it matter whether Trump's a nice guy or not? I think people have baked in now what he is. He's a shoot from the hip, guy that loves to talk. He's pretty narcissistic. Okay. He's pretty bombastic. He's pretty pugilistic. If you read his book, The Art of the Deal, he says if somebody punches me, metaphorically or real, I'll punch them 10 times back. There's nothing new about any of Trump's behavior if you have studied his behavior for the last 40, 50 years. He just happens to be a guy who won the White House and right now is actually looking like he's favourite to win it back. So for all the rhetorical issues around Trump and the supposed meanness, there are tens of millions of Americans who are queuing up to vote for him.
Yeah, so let's talk about tens of millions. I particularly take quite a bit of umbrage with the description of Donald Trump as demonic. I think that is quite shocking as a Christian myself, to call somebody demonic like Donald Trump, who's actually against the 10 million people who have been human smuggled into this country, many of them children. I remember a time not too long ago when the left cared about children in cages. Yet now they're calling Donald Trump demonic. He wants to stop these human smuggling by the cartels. Have you ever been down to the border, Destiny? Have you seen the rape trees? Have you seen the little children's toys that are left down there from the human smuggling that is created by Joe Biden, the biggest human smuggler in human history? Do you know the carnage and the horror that is being created by those policies? Let's not even talk about what Joe Biden has done to the world stage. Donald Trump brought world peace. You're going to talk about Kurds and wars? How about Ukraine? Joe Biden could have stopped that war before it even started. Joe Biden continues that war and continues the funding of that war that is leading to the wholesale slaughter of an entire region. Joe Biden could stop it right now. Joe Biden has brought war around the world. And then let's talk about the fentanyl poisoning America. You want to talk about cruelty? It took Joe Biden 400 days to go to East Palestine in Ohio, a city that was poisoned by our federal government in a chemical explosion, much less the chemical explosion that is happening all throughout America with fentanyl slaughtering 100,000 Americans. And the final thing I'll say here, how dare you call Donald Trump demonic when Joe Biden hasn't even said Laken Riley's name correctly, called her Lincoln Riley when he was forced to. This woman was slaughtered by a criminal alien who was in this country illegally, who was released by Democrats and went on to slaughter a nursing student in Georgia with his bare hands. And Joe Biden apologized to the murderer. How dare you say, that Donald Trump's demonic? Can you defend any of that behavior? Final thing I'll say here is Joe Biden wouldn't acknowledge his own grandchild. Even the New York Times said that is a sick, evil behavior. So if you're looking for demonic behavior, my friend, I got it for you. It's sitting in the White House in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in a diaper right now during nap time.
Wow. Okay, that's what I call a rebuttal. Let's come to Dave Smith. Before we do, let's play that clip that Manny referenced. This is when Joe Biden, in the State of the Union address, did not pronounce Laken Riley's name properly.